On this episode of The Exchange, we talk to the regional head of Greenpeace and the vice president of LinkedIn, both calling for radical action to save the planet. Welcome to The Exchange from our studio here in Doha. Now, COP28 welcomes politicians, CEOs and climate activists to Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, all to tackle the biggest problem on the planet. Well, the pressure is greater than ever. According to the United Nations, COP28 UAE is a prime opportunity to rethink, reboot and refocus the climate agenda. So let's have a quick recap on the COP story so far. Well, back at COP21 in 2015, the world agreed to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees compared to pre-industrial levels by 2050. And in less than 7 years, carbon emissions need to be reduced by 43% to make this achievable. Well, most scientists now agree that we're unlikely to hit this target. But at COP28, heads of state and senior government leaders will meet over 70,000 delegates to coordinate a new worldwide push for action. Bold intentions from the politicians and business leaders. But what do the activists think? Greenpeace has been at the forefront of environmental activism for 54 years. Its network of 15,000 volunteers now spans 55 countries. Well, I caught up with their executive director for the Middle East and North Africa, Hiwa Nakat, and I started by asking her how COP28 is inspiring more action and less talk from politicians.
So far, it's been talks. We need them to act with greater urgency. As I said, this is a very important COP for various reasons. First, this COP marks the conclusion of the first global stocktake. This is the primary mechanism through which we assess progress and collective efforts under the Paris Agreement. It's evident now that the world is falling short of meeting the agreement objectives. And therefore, at COP28, global leaders must chart a path to accelerate climate action and close the gaps for 2030 targets. And urgently, they need to ensure that the 1.5 degrees remains within reach. To do that, we need to have global emissions by 2030. And therefore, in COP28, we should have a decision to immediately halt fossil fuel expansion.
A powerful plea there from Greenpeace. But it's not just government officials and activists taking part in COP28. Euronews reporter Jane Witherspoon looks back on the preparations to the event, where she met an Atlantic rower aiming to create a new spirit of action across the COP community.
This year's UN Climate Change Conference in Dubai has the aim of uniting the international community on climate issues and building on what was promised at last year's event in Sharm el-Sheikh. A series of local initiatives have been running on the periphery of this year's conference. Toby Gregory is an adventurer and environmental change maker who's launched Road to COP in a battle against plastic pollution.
Between 60 and 90% of the pollution that gathers on our shoreline around the whole region, in fact the whole world, is made up of plastic. So we're going to row around the coastline of the UAE. It will take about 2 months, and in that time we'll be giving the boat over to CEOs, to school teachers, to students, to everyone really who cares about the planet.
This is Expo City, Dubai, the site for this year's event, which is expected to welcome around 70,000 delegates, world leaders and heads of state.
TGP International are a global agency for the hospitality and food retail industry and are Expo City Dubai's appointed consultant overseeing all F&B for the COP28 UAE site. They're committed to supporting the global sustainability agenda and stress the importance of the food and beverage industry's roles in addressing climate change.
At TGP International, we're looking into collaborating with several stakeholders such as local suppliers, local communities and government bodies to ensure not only the sustainable initiatives are effectively implemented, but also communicated to an environmentally conscious clientele.
As the UAE welcomes the world to COP28, all eyes will be on it uniting together to deliver actionable solutions to the global climate crisis.
Bold ambitions, but is a worldwide shift to the green economy actually realistic? According to a report by LinkedIn, only 1 in every 8 workers currently has the green skills needed to meet net zero targets. I spoke to LinkedIn's Vice President of Global Public Policy, Sue Duke, about what she sees as much needed radical reform across the jobs market.
A green job is a job whose primary focus is to combat climate change. So think of jobs like wind turbine technician, solar consultant, environmental engineer. And of course, to do these green jobs, you need lots of green skills. But what's really interesting is that we also see these green skills, they're skills that are either taking pollution out or conserving natural resources. We're also seeing these green skills being applied to a whole host of traditional jobs. Some of the top jobs out there using green skills are jobs like fleet manager, data scientist, healthcare worker, not green jobs per se, but jobs that are going green more and more.
Now it's time for our regular feature, Business in 60 Seconds. Start the clock. Sony will announce their quarterly results this month. It's been a good year for the company with stock remaining high. The US rollout of the new PS5 Slim is getting gamers excited. With more countries set to sell the latest console over the coming months, millions will be updating their Christmas lists. US mega pharmacy chain CVS will also be declaring their quarterly results. The chain has had a mixed year with some strong results, but staff have also raised concerns about the long working hours required to meet consistently strong demand for pharmaceutical products. Stability is the watchword for analysts who will be hoping for positive news to relieve the symptoms of a challenging period. And Starbucks will be hoping for an energizing set of results this month. The coffee giants have grown from strength to strength throughout 2023, with stock remaining high throughout. The company is also celebrating the 20th anniversary of its flagship product, the pumpkin spiced latte. In less than 7 years, we'll find out whether carbon emissions have been reduced by the 43% required to stop global warming exceeding 1.5 degrees. But according to the experts, the 2030 target is way off the mark. The pressure on politicians and CEOs is reaching boiling point. And as we've heard from our guests, COP28 needs to deliver something meaningful, not just to save our future, but to tackle problems like hunger and clean water right now. Well, that's all we have time for on this edition of the show. Thanks for watching. Please do check out euronews.com for all your latest business news. And join us again next time on The Exchange.